camera action, it's on. New black film revolution born. Movers, shakers, big and little filmmakers. Let's make a movie today, see where it take us. Halle Berry, Denzel, and Jamie. Terrence Howard, Mike D, and Spike Lee. Brand new filmmaker born every day. Put a camera in his hand and let him lead the way. Let me get an Oscar, let me get an Emmy. Reelblack woke up the filmmaker in me. Whether digital, 8mm, 35. Let's make the movies that can open the eyes. Let's tell the stories that need to be told. Make them laugh, make them cry, for the young, for the old. Come on, let's shake it, make it and make movies. Reelblack, I really like the way you do me.
Hey, this is Mike.
And this is Charles Woods.
And I know it's been a while, but we're back with another Reelblack podcast. And I think it would be unfair not to discuss some of the things that have been happening in the last couple weeks. I guess you'd say politically?
Politically, culturally, socially. There's so many levels to this. And I suggested to you that in our discussion tonight, even though, a lot of what we do is film related, I think the time demands that we address the issue that's going on today and just offer our perspective, because we are human beings in a world that is really chaotic from a racial perspective. And I think I would just like to be able to say how I'm feeling right now.
We've seen it happen before, but maybe not so intensely in an election year. 2016 is just an interesting year. It seems like, we're progressing in some levels, but then, there's always something that kind of reminds us that not as much has changed as we would like to.
Well, let me just say, first of all, in the wake of what happened in Dallas, the loss of 5 policemen, mm-hmm. and the lives of, more recently, 2 black men, which precipitated the protests that was going on in Dallas, the loss of 2 more black men as a result of police action, or police coming, responding. My heart goes out to the families of the police and to the families of the 2 black men killed. That's first and foremost, I need to say that. But it's just something so weird that's going on. And for the longest, it seems like people want to dodge the discussion of race relations in this country. And the more they dodge this discussion, the more they try to get away from it, the more it becomes something that we can't get away from. It's something we have to look at honestly and deal with it honestly. Race, still to this day, is a very important issue. And if we can't come to grips with that, we're doomed.
This being a film show, I think, a lot of times it's good to have perspective. I mean, in some ways, what's been going on, it sort of felt like Groundhog's Day. You had, another video of another black male victim of police action. And then, almost like a day later or 2 days later, there was another one. I think what changes in this week is that there was some retaliation, on the part of what they're saying was a lone black gunman.
Well, here's what I just want to get out there. Mm-hmm. Watching television, and I like to stay on top of the politics that's going on, because it is our duty as citizens to be civic-minded, to know what's going on, and not just to get our information from one source. If I'm conservative, I need to look at a progressive station. If I'm progressive, vice versa. But here's what upset me. I'm watching television, a peaceful march, and then all of a sudden, and I think I told you we were on the phone. I said, do you see what's happening in Dallas? Something's breaking out here.
Mm.
And it was so surreal. Um, there was a black man whose picture they posted had a gun, and his brother hurry up and responded and said, "Hey, my brother's he's not connected with anything that's going on." Someone was shooting down police, shooting into the crowd of protesters, and in the aftermath, we discovered there were 7 people, also 7 others hurt. I think a couple of citizens, but 5 policemen were killed, and the march was almost over. It was so peaceful. And then this thing happened. And what came to my mind, Mike, was a number of films and, listening to Baba Dick, the Manchurian Candidate, because they thought it was a terrorist group. And remember, I said that, they don't even know who's doing this. They were chasing a Mercedes. They were stopping a Mercedes. They said they had a number of suspects, and they thought it was 2 or 3 shooters. And then it turned out it's one shooter. And then they, a couple of days later, they released the suspects they had been holding. But the reaction, there were so many things going on in the reaction that I think go to a lot of what's being said, and people need to own up to what they're saying and to watch what they're saying, because words, images, all of this has consequence, and that's what I wanted to run by you and our listeners in light of what took place.
So you have a list of some films from the past that have dealt with similar issues?
Fruitvale Station, of course. It's one that comes to mind. And that's based on a true incident.
Oscar Grant.
Yes.
Murder at Fruitvale Station in San Francisco. The film that put Michael B. Jordan and Ryan Coogler on the map.
And isn't that a film that was also produced by Forrest Whitaker?
Yeah, he was the executive producer.
Yes.
On that film.
And based on a true incident, many people felt it was going to be high in the Oscar selection process. Never happened, did it?
No.
And you wonder why. And many people, those who are in the conspiratorial realm, felt, well, they didn't want to really deal with those issues. You follow what I'm saying?
Yeah, I think that was a key factor. Also, that was the year 12 Years a Slave was out. So, I mean, not that it would be a determining factor to have 2 black films contending, but it seemed that Hollywood was out to reward a different type of depiction of black injustice that year.
And that what you just said is something I wanted to piggyback on. Exactly what kind of imagery we get in film, what's celebrated, what's given more attention, and these kind of films, they kind of want to cover them up, hide them, keep them away from the public. And I think that's what hurt Fruitvale Station. Now, along those same lines, Mike, there's a film I don't think too many people are aware of that also comes to mind, and that's The Glass Shield.
No, it's a great film. It's as we speak, it's still streaming on Netflix. It's a Charles Burnett movie starring Michael Boatman and Ice Cube from 1994.
And Lori Petty she's got a key role in that also, because, and I don't want to get anything away, because I just want to have those listening to us take a look at that film if you haven't seen it. And there's so much in that film. There's the old expression, life imitates art. But here's a film that was made in 1994 where in many ways the imagery in that film, that what's depicted, what's going on today, it's life imitating art.
Or very little has changed.
It-
The glass shield, I mean, just for folks who don't know, it's about a young rookie recruit in the LAPD who gets assigned to pretty much an all-white racist precinct. And, around the same time that he's starting and being initiated into the system, Ice Cube is arrested.
what happens with Ice Cube is there was a reported murder of this man's wife, played by Ellie Gould. And the description of the attackers was black. So right away, okay, there's this crime that wasn't solved. And Ice Cube is coming out of a store and he's confronted by one of these racist rogue cops. And he stops Ice Cube basically on there was no cause for him to even approach Ice Cube, Ice Cube's character. And something happens where they discover Ice Cube has a gun.
You mind if I search the car?
Not unless you got a warrant.
What do you got in the car, Teddy?
I know my rights.
Hey, man, if I arrest you, that car is mine. I can rip it apart, man. I can take the seats out. Is that what you want? Keep your hands where I can see them.
They right
brother.
here.
Now, what do you got in the car, man? You got drugs? What do you got?
Borrowed my girlfriend's father gun. It's under the driver's seat.
Partner, we got a gun in the car. Put your hands behind your head.
Oh,
Turn around
Ma'am,
slow.
exit the driver's side. Turn your back.
Lock your fingers.
Step out of the vehicle, ma'am. Don't look anywhere else. Look at me, ma'am.
Ow! What do you got?
Spread your legs.
You got any razor blades? You got
Lock your
anything
fingers
sharp?
behind your head, ma'am. Spread your legs.
Man, well, if I find anything sharp and I get cut, I'm gonna be real pissed
I
off.
ain't got nothing better to do, huh?
You ain't got nothing better to do. Neither do you, brother. I'm going to movies tonight.
Ow, these are too tight,
They
man.
ain't made for comfort, Teddy.
I go get the gun.
And they want to use that gun to say that was the gun that killed this woman that was reported
Right.
murdered.
Yeah, so it evolves into a courtroom drama as well as a sort of a cover-up story that Lori Petty and Michael Baltman basically find out that he's innocent. And it's the things that, how far will the police go to silence their system? They're setting up a lot of people. It's not just Ice Cube. And, will Michael Baltman stay with the force, basically?
There's so many things working in that film. Eddie Lee Johnson co-scripted the screenplay with the director, Charlie Burnett. But there's so many things going on in that film. Michael Baltman's character. Yes, he's black, and in many ways he can relate to Ice Cube. But the thing is, as a policeman, he takes on the culture of the police because you have to be one of the guys.
Mm-hmm.
And many people feel that's one of the things that's hurting the police image, because so many people are turning a blind eye to these rogue cops out of fear of revealing what the truth could be. The brotherhood. In other words, that's the brotherhood. It's it's not black and white. It's the blue brotherhood. So Michael Baltman's character gets caught up in that. Mm-hmm. The other thing that I wanted to address is many people feel that's what's happening with a lot of these killings by police that is questionable. Many feel that the police force has been infiltrated by a lot of racist whites. This is a way, by virtue of them being members of the police force, they can get away with murder.
Mm-hmm.
one of the things that just came out in one of the conversations you had with Baba Dick, many people feel that, and even Al Sharpton has said this recently, so long as the judgment in these cases keeps coming back where there's a non-guilty verdict, then what happens is we develop another culture where there is no sense of nothing to fear from doing the wrong thing. You can get away with murder. You follow what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
That's the other thing that this film depicts, and that's the other thing that's going on in the society where, to get back to the reason why I bring up Baba Dick, he's saying if there's no circumstance for no sense of these policemen having to pay for this, if there's nothing they have to, pay for this action, it's going to continue. We have to find other ways to address the problem. Just marching with signs, Black Lives Matter, and I want to get back to this whole thing, Black Lives Matter. Holding up signs, protesting, that's not getting anything done. Black men, for the most part, women every now and again, like Sandra Bland, are still being killed.
Christian Science Monitor from July 21st, 2014. Ku Klux Klan infiltrated Florida Police Department. Residents of the small town may have been stunned by an investigative report linking 2 city police officers with the Ku Klux Klan, a secret hate society that was once violently active in the area. So, I mean, there's no question that there are white supremacists working on the police force. And
yeah, I'm sorry, Mike.
And it doesn't go far to think that they, either through their prejudice or through their intention, it's easier for them to waste just, a black person's life.
First of all, with the technology that exists today, a lot of what blacks said, hey, there was no reason for them to stop me. I was beaten by these guys. They used of excessive force. Oh, right away they'll call out the black man's record. He's got a record. So there's character assassination going on. Now, they're talking about what? Let's equip the police with body cameras, right?
Mm-hmm.
There body cameras on one of the killings, recent killings.
Mm-hmm.
All of a sudden, they were dislodged.
On 2 different police officers, they both lost their cameras, Alton Stewart.
Right, and here's what's going on also. There was a number of precinct commanders said they don't want the use of body cameras.
Mm-hmm.
Also, you had what was called the Ferguson effect as a consequence of what happened in Ferguson with Michael Brown and people pulling out their cameras. You had many precinct commanders going and saying, we can't do our job anymore because we're under too much scrutiny. It begs the question, what job are they saying they can't do?
Well, it goes back to what the Black Panthers were doing back in the 60s. They started out, their first actions were to monitor or patrol the neighborhood and bear witness to police stops. They happened to have guns at the time, but they said, look, we're well within our rights to observe you, and we're well within our rights to carry the gun.
There was something very suspicious about the 2 police where the cameras were dislodged.
Mm-hmm.
They wanted to get the shop owner's video. They made an attempt to get his video. He observed what was going on. He said this whole thing about a gun, he saw the gun being removed out of the victim's pocket after the victim was shot. Mm-hmm. And one of the policemen you heard say, gun, gun, gun.
Right.
Now, one of the things that has to be addressed, you have, let's say, a common citizen commits a crime or is suspected of committing a crime. He's brought in for questioning. He has to own up where he's been, what he did, blah this, blah that. You have some policemen in different counties, up to a month, they don't have to say anything. When I speak about what I don't like, what I'm seeing, it's from having the experience of being beaten by cops. Mm-hmm. Okay? And too many black men have had that experience. And so and I'm going to tie it up, we have people marching and saying Black Lives Matter, let's get this straight. There's no one saying this means Black lives matter more than anyone else's lives. Let's not get that. Let's not corrupt that. That's not what is being said. So for someone to come out and say, "Oh, if you say Black lives matter," no, all lives matter.
Right.
That's garbage. Don't we still have St. Patty's Day?
Well, it's ignoring what the issue is.
Yes.
It's basically disrespecting the fact that there's a problem.
Deflection. That's what they do.
It seems like the more things change, the more they stay the same, and I still believe that we can change things. That this is not just a cycle, that we can break the cycle, but through awareness and through action.
I just want to say in closing, images, words, they all have consequences. The police chief in Dallas, Chief Brown, he himself, in fact, it wasn't, he said something else, but the mayor of Dallas said, we have to be very careful of what we say. Words matter. They have consequences. For us to lay the goals, the objectives of a group, a movement like Black Lives Matter, which is not in any way, shape, or form an attempt to condemn the good of what a police force is supposed to be about. It's supposed to be to serve and protect, and to try to put on them that what's happening is because of rhetoric that there's no way, shape, or form you can attribute any rhetoric that in protesting that Black Lives Matter, justice should be equal, and it should be across the board where all people are treated fairly. I think for anyone to say that what's happening is because of Black Lives Matter, and not to look at someone who's saying we have to fight fire with fire, no one's attacking those kind of words. Mm-hmm. If I say let's fight, we have to fight fire with fire. We need to waterboard people who are waterboarding us. That's more incendiary than anything you can attribute to Black Lives Matter. So let's not get it twisted.
Well, amen to that. All right, so let's take a little break, and we'll get into part 2. This is gonna be a long one, but it's been a while since we've had a chance to do one of these. So hopefully, folks can stick it out. If not, bookmark it and get back to it.
We're all in the same bunker hole, as we used to say in the Army. There is no black and white in the bunker hole when we fighting a common enemy. We no longer see ourselves as an enemy. So when you get a film like, it may seem like propaganda, which it is, but the stuff that Sidney Poitier did, his films, mm-hmm. those were fantastic films because they were promoting, the people who were behind those films were promoting brotherhood. Now, I believe in brotherhood. My life is different from a lot of black brothers and sisters. I didn't grow up where I encountered racism in a harsh way. So my schema, my reality is different. But I know racism. You follow what I'm saying?
Yeah, of course.
One of the ways you eliminate prejudice and racism is when you get to know people. Racism and prejudice is based on ignorance.
You're constantly saying, that this is not just entertainment, but I would say the majority of black folks treat opportunities to make films as opportunities to entertain. I don't know if you saw this clip. I shared it on my Facebook. Bill Boggs, who's from Philly, you can find his website on Twitter, Bill Boggs TV YouTube channel. He has a very vast collection of interviews. I think he broadcasted in New York as well. A lot of local. When you had afternoon TV talk shows, he was the guy. And was Bill Boggs up in New York? Do you remember him?
Yeah, he used to be on Channel 5 here in New York.
Yeah, so I'm not sure if this is from Philadelphia.
Which is a Fox channel.
Well, you see Bill Boggs ain't on there now. But anyway, let me pull this up for you. I want you to hear this.
Serious in this, but there are some things I am wondering about, though.
Okay.
Yeah, that same question about why mess around with TV where you got restrictions and executives.
$2 million.
That'll do it, I guess, yeah. That'll do it. Well, I thought, I checked this out with...
I was going to have a chart on the show. They wouldn't let me have it. I was going to have a chart. I was telling someone else this. I was going to have a chart to show that as the shows got worse, my money got larger. They call it integrity chart. So, integrity 3, money 12.
I got it. By the time that this recent series was finished, what was your integrity mark?
I think my integrity was about 4.6.
On a 10 scale?
On a 5.
On a 5. What do you think that these executives are afraid you're going to do to white America?
Probably stop some racism.
Stop racism?
Yeah. I'm probably afraid of that because then people don't hate each other, then people start talking to each other, and then they start talking to each other, they find out who's the problem.
Which is?
Greedy people.
Greedy people. I have a couple things I want to ask you there. Do you really think that some of the guys that you dealt with at NBC, no names, right? Because there's lawsuits for that too, that some of these guys really want to promote racism actively, or is it a subconscious?
I just think it's part of capitalism, is to promote racism, right? In order to make things work. If you feel better because you're white and you can get a job, you use that. I mean, I would.
Absolutely.
Say, I'm sorry, Jack, but shit, they say I'm white. I'm going to use this.
Right. Absolutely.
Get this job. I'm hungry, But, and that separates people. So they keep people separated, and that keeps them from thinking about the real problem. That's as simple as I see it. Probably it's not that simple, but...
Now, all right, you and I are about the same age, right? We're in our mid-30s. How long is it going to take before guys who think like you, and I say guys who think like me, people who don't want to have racism in the country, people who don't want to be oppressing any minority, whatever it is, sexual, whatever minority, really get into positions of power and can change things?
You can't get in a position of power, it seems, if you think like that. It seems that the only time you get in a position of power is if you're like the people that are in power. To me, I mean, that's the way it goes. I mean, people that get to become executives become like the people that were already executives.
I don't know, maybe...
They go in with good intentions, but it eats them up. It's like a cesspool, it just gets on you and it starts eating.
The system levels them.
Pretty soon it's all gone.
Is that what a cesspool sounds like?
Yes. Yeah.
All right. We'll be back right after this.
Okay.
He's a good guy.
I didn't know you were going to play that. And correct me if I'm wrong. Is that a lot of what I just said? But and see, this is someone in the industry. And as I told you before, I know a lot of brothers come in and they have the highest ideals. They write the best of scripts, progressive images for blacks. They can't get it produced. Now, people are going to find out more about my brother, Barry Berry. He was part of In Living Color when it first came on with Keenan.
Groundbreaking show.
There's a lot of stuff Barry wrote. They loved it, but it was too smart, too sophisticated. There was a lot of stuff they had to tone down. And as I said before, racism works on ignorance. And racism is something they make money off. It's capitalism works on exploitation, keeping people to separated at each other's throats. It's about an individual mentality versus a group mentality. And the sooner people realize that, for example, when we have blacks who are saying, I don't see myself as black, I'm an American, as Raven Simone, well, that's commendable. Okay, great. But I want a white person to feel the same way. I don't see myself as white. I see myself as a human being.
Mm-hmm.
You dig what I'm saying?
Yeah, I don't hear that very often.
Okay. And like he said, hey, it's if I know that whiteness is what's going to get me over in this society, then what the hell am I going to try to be? White. And you got a whole lot of blacks knowing if they want to make it, what do they have to be? They got to play the card, and it's not the race card being black. You got to sell yourself as a safe black. You're going into people's homes. The majority was the white viewer. They're not going to accept the image of a black that they didn't consider safe. I mean, what's the name told you when he spoke about Bill Cosby, Robert Dick, what he said, they used to eat jello out his ears and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
The safe black. We're going to talk about the magic Negro. There's a certain way they want blacks. As Ann Coulter said, our blacks are better than their blacks. In other words, you see, that's the same thing. Once you let blacks start talking about pride, taking pride in, and you know, we're not saying we need Black History Month because we want to hear just how great we are. But we can't get it for a month, and you got a problem with that? And white history is 24/7, 365 days a year?
Well, I mean, the thing is, if you take it away, you don't have it at all.
Exactly.
I mean, it's not like anybody's offering to integrate it. If anything, they're changing. I mean, in some of these textbooks in Texas, they've changed slavery to forced migration. I mean, that's how they want to whitewash the evils, you know, of what's happened, the foundation of American history, you know.
And you keep trying to ask Baba Dick, and it's tough because, you know, but the thing is, what a lot of people don't see is you're trying to ask him questions because you're curious. And, you know, there are a lot of people, you know, why'd you give up all this money and this fame and what you're going? And he's telling you. The reason why he talks about athletes and entertainers. I don't hang out with entertainers. Because what he's saying is they're sellouts. He sees a lot of them as sellouts, man. They're just playing the game. And that's what he deplores. And so when I'm hearing, let me tell you, I know a lot of these guys, man. I saw Morgan Freeman when he was just starting out in Richard Wesley's The Mighty Gents. Okay? He was cocking his hair back in the day and whatnot. He was trying to make some money. Sam Jackson, not too long ago, he was on drugs and whatnot. Okay, they become filthy millionaires now. They're big time. Morgan driving the airplane. And this is, I'm saying this, not Reelblack, you. I'm saying this. If anybody got objections to what I'm saying, it's not you saying it. I'm saying it to you. Okay?
Yeah, Sam Jackson, don't unfriend me on Facebook.
Okay, and Sam, let me tell you, I love you, but the whole thing is this. What did Richard Pryor say? In order to be a part of that game, you got to become like it. You had to start idealistic, but the thing is, you can come in, but if you want to be a success, you got to join in. And you know, you have a lot of people who are into conspiracies, and they'll say, hey, the Illuminati this, and how you got a lot of these black actors. You hear all different kind of things about what, you know, the different person. I'm not going to name names, but they got to do this. They got to do this kind of role.
Right.
In order, okay, they got to, you know, because Hollywood, the people that run Hollywood, Mike, are some of the vilest, filthiest, disgusting human beings on the face of the earth. And Hollywood, that motion picture industry, is about promoting and projecting a society. This is the most violent society on the face of the earth, man. And the most despicable things that going on in this society. When you talk about people who are filthy rich in this country, and you walk out and see people starving, homeless, how can you have people who are homeless and you got people talking about, I'm going to see the Cleveland Cavaliers versus the Golden State Warriors. I'm going to pay $10,000 for a ticket.
It was more than that.
$180 million to make a movie, Mike? Does that make any damn sense to you? Well, then let me tell you something, okay? They won't tell you this. No one's going to say this. But the thing is, you got to ask yourself, why do they hate Americans so much? You know, why are they trying to destroy America? Well, all you have to do is look at the history of America. Exploitation of people. You know, the ambassadors for America were those soldiers. Us soldiers. We're going over. And if we have an arrogant attitude and we're trying to screw, I use the word screw because it's a terrible word, but I use it because, in other words, if you don't have any loving, caring attachment when you think about having sex with a woman, then screw is the term. I'm going to screw this someone. You talking about having sex with someone's mother, someone's sister, someone's wife, and attitudes, man. There's something they always talk about. The one thing that people will judge you and know you by is your character. Okay? That travels. That resonates. That means something. And if we have a character that is about respecting and valuing one human being, another human being, people will see that and respect that, and they'll know that. And any film that is made, if it's presenting and portraying that kind of sentiment, then that's filmmaking that's on a universal, God-like order. I'm for that. I'm for the promotion of films like that. Motion pictures that are about changing the condition of this world. But basically, as we spoke on the radio not too long ago with Mr. Wilmot, we have a society now where too many motion pictures have glamorized violence and killing, and it's just terrible. I'm sorry.
Right. Well, I want to play another thing for you. I just want to get your thoughts on this. This is Ken Burns talking about race and as it relates to his work and the history of race in the United States.
It's always been there. I don't know where it was born. I remember when I was a 10-year-old watching the dogs and the fire hoses at Selma and just crying on my parents' bed and having an angst that surprised them. They actually sent me to a psychiatrist about it then. And I realized somehow it must have just accompanied me. This is what I'm born to do. And look, you know, I get hate mail. People call me the N-word. They say we've solved the problem of race. Why do you bring it up? The Civil War wasn't about race. Of course it was about race. It's not about slavery. Of course it was about slavery. I don't think, and we put African American history, black history, into February, which is our coldest and shortest month, as if it's some politically correct addendum to our national narrative. But any investigation of the past convinces us that African American history is at the beating heart of it. And let me tell you why in just a few sentences. Our country was founded under a single sentence of beauty, written, the second sentence of the Declaration. We hold these truths to be self-evident that all men are created equal, and they are endowed by their Creator by certain inalienable rights, that among these are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. The man who wrote those words, our creed, as he wrote those words, owned more than 200 human beings. Never saw the contradiction, never saw the hypocrisy, never sought to free those people in his lifetime, and set in motion an American history that is not only bedeviled by the Civil War came because he couldn't deal with that. Our founders couldn't deal with that question of chattel slavery in a country that was advertising itself to the world as the birthplace of human liberty. Not only bedeviled by a question of slavery, but ennobled by race. The only art form Americans have created and contributed to the world is jazz. It's at its heart is improvisation, the American genius. And African Americans, when you are unfree in a free land, you have to improvise a hell of a lot more than anybody else, and so created this music. And I don't know of a film that I could do. I suppose Frank Lloyd Wright, a biography of the architect, Thomas Hart Benton had race in his murals. I mean, it's hard to get away from it in American history, and I welcome it, and I welcome even those people, unreconstructed brethren, who think that it's all over. It isn't over. We've made more progress than any other country on earth to being a colorblind society, but we have so far to go. And until we can say, as Dr. King said, that we're judging everyone by the content of their character and not by the color of their skin, then there'll be stories to tell in American history in which we will bring up, however uncomfortably for some people, the question of race. I mean, I've got a film, my film before the war is called Unforgivable Blackness, The Rise and Fall of Jack Johnson.
That's powerful. And people like Ken Burns, I applaud him, because he's producing stuff and he's doing it in a conscionable and integrity-filled way, and he's researching history, and you can't tell the American story without dealing with the African American. What was that, Lost, Stolen, or Strayed that Bill Cosby did years ago?
Yeah.
And remember, he said, you take the whitest of all things, sugar, and you'll find a black man. Remember that?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So, so the whole thing is, and this is something I realized a long time ago. History, the study of history, if you do it in an objective way, there's nothing more exciting than it. And today, with the internet, people can sit in their living room and travel. Where years ago I had to go to the libraries. I would hope I told the story before, I would wish that my parents had the money to afford Encyclopedia Britannica. Mm-hmm. But reading, once again, as I said, they didn't want us to know how to read, because once you're able to ascertain truth can set you free. If we have this image that we're nothing, then we won't aspire to be anything, because we don't think we can be anything. And if they're going to just give us our history that begins with slavery, I mean, you say slavery, and the first image comes is what? Kunta Kinte? Mm-hmm. And you don't see blacks as having a history before America. I mean, he talks about Thomas Jefferson. Thomas Jefferson wrote those words. Mm-hmm. But did he think they applied to the African? Hell no. Voltaire, if people can look up who Voltaire was, but Thomas Jefferson, they had no concept of the black man being equal to the white man. You know, and then we had what was called eugenics developed, this so-called pseudoscience around. They were trying to account for the origin of the races, but the black man they always wanted to put as the lowest form of the primates. I applaud people like Ken Burns, and we need, like what Spike Lee did when he did Four Little Girls.
Mm-hmm.
We need a lot of our black filmmakers like you yourself, like Kelvin Wilmot said. You know, if you're just thinking about making movies to make money, well then that's gonna limit you. But if you have a vision and you know how to do it, we need to make movies about our stories.
Mm-hmm.
Norbert Reelblack, Granville Woods, great inventors. There's so many stories. And I remember when William Greaves was doing this kind of stuff. And we need to find a way to make education something that our children will want to take advantage of. You know, it's sad that too many black children are turning their nose up to the thought of being educated. Education, you know, some people want to say, about education. Education is important, and learning about our past. I applaud the Hidden Colors. That's meant a lot to a lot of people, seeing that kind of history being discussed. Now we have to take and be objective when we see a lot of this stuff, because you know, if you don't look at it the right way, it can lead you down some rabbit holes. That's with anything, but it's important that we get history.
That really defines my sense of purpose. And I think that's something that we can both, you know, from different generations, our experience, a lot of our perception of who we are and what we can become was defined by the images that we saw on the big screen and the small screen. You know, at an impressionable age. You know, as much as I want to make bigger films and have a wider audience be exposed to my vision, you know, I've never let that stop me from wanting to tell stories. So, you know, a lot of the stuff that people will find on the channel, I think is just sort of me saying that we exist, you know, that we have stories, we have experiences. And I always say that it doesn't matter when you get it, as long as you get it. You know, so if you're lucky enough to be exposed to things, as Baba Dick says, when I was 9 years old, then good for you. But if it just if it takes, you know, finding.
But one thing Baba Dick respects about you, and you know, a lot of people may not get that, is he knows the power of that camera.
Oh, absolutely, yeah. Well, that's really what is going to define the future, is if people use the power, you know, and not fall into the same tricks and traps.
Motion pictures, they know, used correctly, because it's all about propaganda. Propaganda means you can use it in a positive way or a negative way. You know, propaganda is all about messaging. Okay, so the way it's used, it's to sustain, perpetuate, keep things status quo. But they know the power of motion pictures. They can use it in a way. They can change the world as we know it. They know this. They know how to do it. But as Richard Pryor said, hey, they're not going to do it. There's no money to be made from it. Not like they're making the money hand over fist the way it is now.
If the objective is to enlighten and empower, which I feel it is, we got to get away from the I and have more of a we. When people are making films, a lot of it is your ego. Like a lot of films I see, I feel like it takes a lot of effort and energy to will something into manifesting into the material world, something as big and complex as a film. It takes a lot of effort, and a lot of times people do it for selfish reasons. They say, a lot of times I see movies and I feel like the only reason this movie exists is so that this person can have their name on it. They're not necessarily thinking about the overall how people are going to receive it, or even if there's an audience for it. They just want to make something that has their name on it, and that's fine. But I think when you act in sort of that selfish motivation for wanting to make movies, and you don't necessarily see how your work is adding to the literature or the legacy of all the films that have been made before it, then you're losing out. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I think that you don't have power when it's just you trying to express yourself. When you see it as a collective, we are doing this, then suddenly there's greater power and there's a movement. It's a different frequency. So I'm hoping that people receive the information that we've shared just now, as well as the other content that's on the channel, to sort of see that there is a movement. There are people that are working towards this. There are people that are trying to tell stories, that are telling stories, that are saying that we exist, that it's important. It's very important. We all suffer from a form of mental illness. Hollywood movies were always perpetuating a lie to a certain extent. It was idealized. So, the idea that of a typical American family is 2.5 kids. Well, how do you get half a kid? So this sort of the idea that was mass produced was sort of Leave It to Beaver, Brady Bunch kind of thing, and a lot of people, maybe that's what they idealize and work towards and wanted their life to be. I mean, as a form of programming, that's what we want you to be. But for people of color, who didn't get a chance to see themselves on TV or represented in media, it created a huge void. And then when we got a chance to see ourselves in large quantity, like I'd say in around the 90s, we talked about this earlier, is music videos, and through hip hop especially. Like I feel like the beginning of hip hop, there was a lot more diversity, and we got to see lots of different images of black people, and there was consciousness, ignorance, and everything. But then at a certain point, what became commercial and commodified was sort of like the same sort of image, the glamorized, excessive wealth, very materialistic, or promoted crime.
I love words.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if I ran this by you once before, but you take the word information. Okay? And newspapers give us information. Radio, internet gives us information. Movies gives us information, right?
Mm-hmm.
Now, when I say information, every word has two meanings.
Okay.
There's the denotative and the connotative. Okay?
Okay.
Now, if we break down information, it's saying, and I could break it down in a connotative way where we look at it differently from the denotative. The denotative is on the level what it means. Connotative is what it can mean.
Okay.
Okay? So, in other words, if I say fat, denotatively, it could describe corpulence. Someone has a weight problem, someone's big. Okay?
Mm-hmm.
In a connotative way, it can also mean, yeah, this guy is a fat cat, man. He's got a lot of money. You see?
Right.
Okay, so now, but information, let's look at that. Information.
Okay.
You get where I'm going with that?
Yeah, I can see it, but let people know.
Okay, in other words, if the information I put out there, I want to skew it and present it in a way that I want, once it's delivered, I want it to be received in a way that it keeps the receiver in formation.
Mm-hmm.
In other words,
in line.
In line. In line. And so what's happening is when you got someone like a Baba Dick, and why people love him so much,
mm-hmm.
and we have people, the kind of stuff that Professor Griff is doing,
mm-hmm.
they're turning people's ability to see things different from the way they usually look at things.
Mm-hmm.
Once we can learn how to do that, we'll see what Baba Dick is talking about when he said it's a game. Mm-hmm. That lens. You know, like in the movie They Live, when they put the glasses on, they can see which people mean them harm. They can see the fact that when you go to the movies, Mike, mm-hmm. I always say when you go to the movies, you see the movie in the dark. Mm-hmm. Right?
Yes.
And that's the way they make movies. They want to keep you in the dark. They don't want to enlighten you. They want to keep you in formation. So the information that's in these movies is not to change your condition. It's to keep you in the same condition. It's to keep the world the way it is. And they know they can change the information to reverse that, but they don't want to do it because, like Richard Pryor and so many people in the business know, to do it another way will upset this system as we know it. And that's why we get the technology. So when you see a film like Tarzan and whatnot, on a simplistic level, people think they're being entertained. But what's actually happening is you're being edutained. You're being educated through what is perceived as entertainment, but you're getting a message. And when we break down the word message, same way we can break down information, you break down message, mm-hmm. mess age. They want to keep this a mess age. So the information is skewed to do just that. We are not going to get people to see each other as humans, to see each other equally, because film is not about that. Film is not about that. And when we get people who are going to make an attempt to give us things that celebrate who we are and what it's all about, they catch hell. They have to water that stuff down. You want this movie made? Well, okay, let me show you what changes you got to make.
You know, I'm just waiting for the day that we get to see Djimon Hounsou as Tarzan. Then we know we've made some progress.
No, if we see Djimon Hounsou as the star of the gods of Egypt.
Okay. Well.
Djimon Hounsou as Moses. Okay? Lupita Nyong'o as Cleopatra. Okay?
All right, preach.
All right.
Well, that'll do it for the latest Reelblack podcast. And thank you, Charles, for taking time out. We've got a lot of things planned. A lot of great guests coming your way. If you haven't yet, please subscribe, please comment, please share. We appreciate your support.
Peace and blessings to everyone. We love you.